And here we are. We are live once again. How is it going, everyone? Steve here from the Ouija Brothers. No Griff. Who knows where Griff is? I don't know where he is. But I am here, and I am with the legendary Ciarán and Anna O'Keeffe for round two. We're going to do a round two for you guys. We're going to do a Q&A. Is everything fine? Can you all hear me? Is everything good? Let's do the tests first before I start yapping away, because, you know, sometimes it falls very bad. Can you all hear me? Let me know if you can. Yeah, you can all hear me. Yeah. So yeah, we got Ciarán O'Keeffe on board again. We got Anna O'Keeffe. They are waiting in the background. We're gonna bring them in any second. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who wanted to see another round, round part two. You know, the last live stream we done was amazing. You know, I enjoyed it so much. Amazing reception. So we are gonna bring them in, and we've got a bunch. You know, we've got new questions for them. And also, we are going to ask you guys, if you guys want to ask any questions for the legendary couple, the O'Keeffes, then here is your time. You know, you can ask them anything you want. We've got 180 people in the chat who's watching. If you could please smash the like button, share this stream out. Very much appreciated. You know, let's get out the truth. Let's get out everything, you know, that we want to get out. So, yeah, it's good to see so many people here. And you know, without stalling. Is Griff okay? I'm sure he's alright, yeah, you know. So, yeah, what we're going to do, we're going to get Griff in. No, we're not. We're going to get Ciarán O'Keeffe in and Anna O'Keeffe in right now. So, here we go, people. See if this works. I'm just letting them... This work? I hope it works. We can hear them. Here they are.
Good evening. Hello. Good evening. How are you?
The O'Keeffes, you know, living, breathing, the legendary. Yeah, thank you so much, guys, for coming back on for another round, you know, another Q&A. And it was your birthday pretty recently, wasn't it, Ciarán? How did your day go?
It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. Even though it was locked down and I didn't get to party, we partied in the house with the 3 children and with Anna. We had a lovely day. Started off with, it was going to be breakfast in bed, but then it was breakfast downstairs. But yeah, ended up getting loads of lovely stuff and lots of messages on social media. I even had, you're going to be jealous of this, I even had Ernie Hudson wish me a happy birthday.
Ernie Hudson!
The Winston Zeddemore from Ghostbusters.
That is amazing. That's crazy, that is. I mean, yeah. Flipping out. I mean, he's a legend. You know, pretty recently... you know, me and my kids, we actually sat down, we rewatched the Ghostbuster films, both 1 and 2. I think it was last week, yeah. And they hold up pretty well, you know. Very good films, very funny. So that's amazing that Winston actually wished you a happy birthday.
I was very lucky. So there's a documentary, I don't know if you've seen it, called Cleaning Up the Town, which is a documentary about Ghostbusters by Anthony and Claire Bueno, and it's a documentary that they've been doing for about 7 years, and it's about Ghostbusters behind the scenes and everything. They got an interview with Harold Ramis before he passed away, all of the Ghostbusters, all of the special effects, all of the actors, actresses and everything, and I think they released it last year and it's on Blu-ray. And I've known them for donkey's years, and they wished me a happy birthday. And then they said, and by the way, here's a little message from a friend of ours. And then, wouldn't you know it, Winston popped up and said, hi, it's Winston from Ghostbusters. Happy birthday, Ciarán.
That's good, man. That's amazing, that is. I mean, he was also in he was in The Crow, wasn't he, I believe?
Was he?
I believe he was in The Crow.
With Brandon Lee?
Unless I've told him... I forgot the wrong person. Let us know down in the chat. Hold on, Soph, like our mod, she's a massive Crow fan. Let us know if he was in The Crow. I'm sure he was. Really? He was indeed. He was indeed.
Was he in The Crow? Wow, I did not know that.
You learn something new every single day. But yeah, that's amazing. Did you get any good birthday presents? What was your favourite present that you got on Sunday?
I got Skull Crusher coffee. Have you ever had that?
Never heard of that.
In a regular cup of coffee. This is true ghost hunting coffee. In a regular cup of coffee, you got 90 milligrams of caffeine. In Skull Crusher coffee, you've got 350 milligrams of caffeine in a single cup. It's mental.
That's good. That is amazing. Anyway,
Perfect for Ghostbusters.
I'm drinking. I've got the Guinness today. Unfortunately, I don't have a Guinness glass. My lovely children do childlike things, and that's destroy and smash the place up. So I'm having to drink it out of a Foster's cup.
Oh no.
So please forgive me for that. So yeah, I think we'll start the questions. But actually we'll do a little bit of because you've got a few projects kind of going on at the moment. So straight up. Any updates of when we can expect episode 9 of the Battersea Poltergeist?
Yes, actually, an exclusive update. I think it was only released on social media today, very briefly, but BBC Radio 4 are broadcasting live all of the episodes of Battersea Poltergeist starting on Monday at 11:30 p.m. They're doing Monday to Thursday, first 4 episodes, then the following week, Monday to Thursday, 11:30 p.m. So broadcast live on BBC Radio 4, and then episode 9 will be on Friday, the 9th of April. So you'll be able to listen to all 8, and then the 9th, which is a new episode, will be on Friday the 9th. And I'm not sure of the time. Maybe 9 p.m. on the 9th. Episode 9 on the 9th at 9 would make sense, but you've yet to hear it. I'm not sure if that's going to happen, but yeah.
Yeah, can't wait. Looking forward to that. The other episodes were absolutely amazing. Really enjoyed it. So can't wait for episode 9 to drop April 9th. Not too long away either. Just a couple of weeks. So yeah, everyone go check out the Battersea Poltergeist. Very incredible. Blew me, I was a bit gutted in a way because I was like envisioning it, like kind of being like like a production because of how it was produced, like the audio, because it's so like engaging. You can imagine like the cameras and the views and like the entire scenario. You can picture it all. But unfortunately, no, I wouldn't say unfortunately. I just want more people to see it because I know a lot of people like they don't really listen to podcasts. They just want to sit down and have things like seeing it. But it was absolutely amazing. Well done on everyone who worked on that. But yeah, everyone check it out. And the next one, the next project you are working on, or actually I think you've already worked on it because it's already on TV, and that's Unexplained Caught on Camera. So I want to kind of like ask you about this one. It's a question, so it fits. Has any footage from Unexplained Caught on Camera that you're featured on, has it surprised you in any way or made you shake your head in disbelief in some of the footage that you've seen?
That's a really good question because this has been one of the few shows that we've actually watched together, isn't it? The paranormal shows. Because you're normally quite scared about this sort of stuff, but you were quite happy to sit down and watch it, although some of it's been quite spooky. Has there been any... it's tough. You know what? Recently there was the Ben and Laney stuff. A lot of people know about Ben and Laney because they're on TikTok, I think, and they moved into a new house and then stuff started happening. And it's one of those things where it's just too good to be true.
Yeah.
But when you start to analyze it, you go, actually, when you're looking at the footage, you cannot see it. You cannot see how it's done. And I think that's one of those clips where you kind of have to say, look, the assumption is it's too good to be true, so therefore it can't be paranormal. But that's almost too biased. You've got to take a step back and go, well, I can't work out how it's done. I know it's done on TikTok, so therefore I've got to be a little bit suspicious. But by the same token, it's really impressive. I think the only thing that people were criticizing at the time when it came out was the bad acting from Ben and Laney. It didn't, if this was genuinely happening in your house and stuff was moving around, I think you'd be a lot more freaked out. Or we would probably be more freaked out. But they just don't. They're just like, oh, look at this. And then they start filming it. So yeah, the Ben and Laney one. Recently there was the Loch Ness as well. The guy in Loch Ness, and he used sonar and he caught a shape at the bottom of the lake that can't be explained. That was a head scratching moment.
Missed that one.
But yeah, it's been
CCTV you said was good.
Yes,
missed on the CCTV.
Yeah, there was a CCTV clip that was caught in America of kind of a swirling mist that I thought was impressive. It's better than your standard sort of orb stuff or standard sort of mist captured on CCTV camera. But yeah, a lot of it, of course, I am wheeled on to be the party pooper. and the villain, and to explain it all away. And that's what I end up doing for most of the series, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But,
very depressing.
but that's why they brought you on, I suppose. What's some of the favourite things that you've seen on there, Anna? Is it Anna or Anna? Is it alright if I call you
Anna.
Anne?
Yeah, Anna.
Yeah, Anna. Yeah.
Yeah, Anna. I think it. What was the one? The
There's a
UFO was
good-
quite good. The UFO, the forest UFO, the
Oh,
crash
the
to the
lights.
fallen trees in the forest.
Oh, that one where
Apart from the
there's
dodgy doll.
Oh, yeah, did you see that one? There was a forest that had been flattened, and the claim was that it was a UFO had landed there. And we were watching this, and Anna was genuinely going, "Yes, it looks quite interesting. You know, how can those trees all be flattened?" And it was in the UK. We don't normally get tornadoes like that in the UK, and so yeah, it was interesting. And until the guy said, and then the same day in the forest, not far from where the flattened trees were, I found this, and he brings out.
Sex doll.
Yeah, it was a sex doll, wasn't it? It was a
Sorry,
sex
I
doll.
just said like it was.
They were, yeah.
They called it something else, didn't they?
They called
I
it
can't remember
like
what it
an animated figure or something like that.
Yeah.
They weren't allowed to use the phrase sex doll, but it was a sex doll basically, and that was quite amusing.
was. Quite funny.
The other one was the guitar moving in the
good.
music shop.
Yeah.
There was a guitar
I like
hanging
that one.
in a display, and it just started moving of its own accord, and it was coincident with them having caught some weird stuff on camera, and then kind of I think it was the next day, the guitar started moving, and then something fell off one of the displays. Yeah, so that was quite weird.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen one funny clip. It was actually from a channel called like Sue Yourself, and it weren't him who made it, but there was one called. Do you remember the L man?
The Elmer.
The L, L like the bird L, the L man who scratched and clawed.
Oh yes, yeah.
I mean that was so hilarious to see that, and he actually showed a video and kind of like explaining and showing that these people, like if you watch their real video, they actually fell down. The one bloke fell down off a wall and cut himself all up and everything like that. And he shows it all, and it's so funny. Yeah, on the telly, it's like, oh, we was running, we was screaming, the L man attacked us. It was hilarious.
The Owl Man. Related to that, one phenomenon that we quite like that we'd love to go and investigate at some point, which is the bucket list, is the Mothman stuff. You know, the Mothman prophecies and all of that at Fairview Point. Where is it? The Point Bridge. Yes, some amazing evidence that's captured there. But it's not quite the Owl Man, though, is it?
I'd never even heard of the L man until that. I mean, good God, but that's TV for you. It's a laugh sometimes. So yeah, absolutely incredible. Yeah, but what we're going to do, that's kind of like some of the things that Kieran's been working on, the Battersea and Unexplained course on camera, and I'm sure he's been working on a lot more stuff. He's a very, very busy man. So yeah, what we're going to do, I've got a few questions myself. I'm going to ask him I'll ask him a few, and then we'll go to you guys, and you can ask him questions, and then I'll keep going back to my list. So it's not just all my questions, you know what I mean? So first one is going to be, and I think a lot of people will like this one. There's a lot of Most Haunted fans in the room, me included. Grew up with it, loved it. So I think we're going to go straight in with a Most Haunted question. So it's obviously for Ciarán, and it is: can you describe a memorable experience you had with Derek Acorah? Did he give you a personal reading or anything? If so, could you share any details?
Two questions there. I'll answer the easy one first, which is he never actually gave me a reading. And that's not unusual. So I've been researching mediums now for about 25 plus years, and it's very rare for a medium to give me a reading. And I'm not sure why that is. I think maybe it's partly because they recognize I'm a skeptic and they feel that they're challenged in some way and that maybe they shouldn't give me a reading. But then I think part of it is also a respect thing. So Derek was very respectful, as other mediums were respectful, in not giving me information or not volunteering information without asking. Do you know what I mean? So it'd be quite easy to say, oh, I'm getting so-and-so, or I get the impression that. None of that, absolutely not. So kind of remained very respectful when we were working together. Related to that, so the first part of the question was a story about Derek and experiences with Derek and that sort of thing. Wow, there's so many. I think one of the great episodes that we did, well, there's actually a few great episodes that we did, but one of the ones that we did kind of towards the end was a live show in London, where we ended up investigating London Bridge, Tower Bridge. I don't know if you know Tower Bridge, and that both Derek and myself, I think, bonded that particular evening because it was a pinch me moment. You know, when you think about Tower Bridge and how amazing that location is, it's an iconic building, an iconic bridge for London. It just symbolizes everything about London, and it's an iconic place. And we were actually allowed to go into Tower Bridge and investigate. And it was at some point Derek and I kind of looking at each other and going, wow, we, you know, just can't believe that we're here. And it was kind of a lovely moment because we did see things very opposite, you know, skeptic and believer, very opposite. And it was towards the end of his time on Most Haunted, but it was a lovely moment when we both realized how lucky we were to be in that situation and be investigating that location. And he went on to pick up, you know, a bunch of stuff and some ghosts and some names associated with the place. But I do always remember that as kind of a unique moment where we kind of had that look and then said almost at the same time how lucky we were to be standing there at that point. So nice little story about Derek.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing, to be honest. I mean, when was the last time you actually, you know, worked with Derek or even seen Derek or met him or talked to him? You know,
well, I guess the last time was on Most Haunted quite a few years ago. It was over 10 years ago. You know, over 10 years ago, maybe 11, 12 years ago when he last did Most Haunted. That was the last time that we worked together. So there was a few years after that when Most Haunted carried on, and then he ended up doing Derek Agora's Ghost Towns. He did a Paranormal Egypt show, did various things, did lots of theatre shows as well, and was very, very active and very, very busy. But no, the last time I ended up working with him was, it was on Most Haunted. And I think one of the last ones we did was actually alive in London. That was one of the last shows that we did together. So
yeah. Rest in peace, Derek. You know, he was obviously took.
absolutely.
He was last year, I believe, wasn't he? January last year.
January last year.
Yeah. Absolutely devastating. You know, I mean, I loved him. You know, I know he's very, you know, polarizing character within the paranormal, but you know, he got a lot of people excited. He got a lot of people into it. So
He did a lot of charity work, didn't he?
Yeah,
as well?
he worked with a colleague of mine up in Scotland when I worked for charity, and yeah, he did a lot of stuff for charity, but supported us anyway. The charity I was working for at the time. Yeah, he was a big heart.
yeah.
Nice.
So and then I'm gonna ask one more question, guys. And then if you guys want to just flood the chat with questions, and I'll pick one, and then we'll keep the questions going. So this is for Ciarán. Which area of parapsychology interests you the most? Is there a specific area that you've seen develop in popularity in recent years?
Well, obviously, ghosts is a first answer. We're all here talking about ghosts. Paranormal television and ghost hunting has never been bigger. So that has been an area that I've seen develop in terms of the popularity. The area of parapsychology that I find the most interesting at the moment is predicting the future. I think that's the biggest area of parapsychology that you just don't hear about. This ability to be able to predict the future. And people have dreams of the future, or they just get a sense of something happening in the future, or even kind of a sense of what somebody's about to say, or if there's a sense that somebody's about to call. All of that is predicting the future. There could be lots of variations of it. And there's a research in parapsychology about something called presentiment, which is the ability to sense danger or risk or an emotional circumstance in the future, just that your body senses it. And that I find the most fascinating. It's been studied in parapsychology now for about 8 years. There's been nothing about it on television or anywhere else. And I think that's the area that we're going to see a lot more about on documentaries and kind of released in the media about this kind of predicting the future thing. Because at the end of the day, you know, people listening into this, I wonder how many people have had that sense of something, like that sense that something's about to happen, as opposed to kind of the detailed, you know, idea, just that sense that something's about to happen. And the fact that there's lab work being done now to show that that can be kind of you can capture evidence of it, I think is amazing, absolutely amazing. So yeah, I'd say that's the area of parapsychology I'm most fascinated by at the moment, as well as it'll always be ghosts. So ghosts and predicting the future, big time.
Good answer. Good answer. So we got our first question from Sarah, and this is one's for Kieran. Was there a specific location that made you doubt your skepticism, and if so, what happened?
Well, yeah, I guess there's a few. We talked. I think the last time we were on, we talked about the bunker, didn't we? On Guernsey, which was a particular location that has made me doubt my skepticism, partly because of the reaction of Anna to the experience and to the location. That it genuinely freaks Anna out, and caught some interesting photos there. There's been some EVPs captured by a colleague and friend of ours, Tim Brown. So that would be a particular location that kind of had me question things. Beyond that, SS Great Britain, maybe, in Bristol, where I just had that spooky feeling, and that's the thing. Parapsychologists like myself can come across as quite arrogant and cynical. And when people are talking about getting that sense that there's something there, that spooky feeling, we genuinely don't really know what that is until you've had it. So when people talk about going into a location and they go, wow, it feels like there's something here or there's something odd here, that kind of spooky sensation, that's what I had at SS Great Britain. And that kind of tipped the skepticism slightly one way and made me more sympathetic and empathic to people's experiences, because I'd had that spooky presence feeling.
Yeah, I've had that as well. Because you can't really portray it across the camera. It can just be one of them throwaway comments, can't it? Just to kind of build up, atmosphere and whatever. But I've had it, a few times where you do feel like a presence, or you can't really explain it. You can cut, cut the air with an atmosphere. You can feel something's there. But it doesn't happen all the time. I think I've only caught it had that feeling a few times. But again, I totally understand what you're saying. Until you experience it, it is pretty. You've kind of got to take people's word for it. But on videos and stuff, it is a throwaway comment, unfortunately now, because
exactly.
it's like every video.
Also just saying, oh, it feels a bit odd, or this doesn't feel right, or trying to describe it, it doesn't capture it at all. Everybody, those people listening in that have had that experience will know what that feels like. There's just kind of odd sensation that feels like there's something there. So yeah, absolutely, it just doesn't. Yeah, you can't capture that on video.
You can't. No, you really can't. Here's a good question for Anna. So this one's for you. Who would you hire to play Ciarán in a movie about his life and career? You've got to pick, not who Ciarán wants. Who would you pick for Ciarán?
Yeah, exactly. Who would you pick? Forget me.
Oh God. You're a big John Travolta fan. I go John Travolta.
John Travolta. There you
John
go.
Travolta.
Yeah,
but John Travolta in which film though? Which John Travolta? Because there's Pulp Fiction John Travolta. There's Grease.
Oh God, no, not
There's
Grease.
Saturday Night Fever, John Travolta.
No,
there's Pulp Fiction.
Yeah,
Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, it's got to be Pulp Fiction.
The fat John Travolta. That's what she's saying.
It's not fat.
But
cuddly.
Yeah, cuddly. That's a diplomatic way of saying it. But yeah, John Travolta and Pulp Fiction. I could go with that. That's nice. I quite like that.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I mean, it could have been it could have been a lot worse.
It could have been a lot worse. Yeah.
But absolutely. Yeah, I mean, John Travolta, what a legend. Pulp Fiction, an amazing film. So yeah, I mean, who could have been? Who could be a bad one?
Who could be a bad one?
Yeah, like just totally that isn't related to you. Just a total bad pick. But it would be funny. I'm trying to think.
Somebody that's completely off the wall. Who are you thinking? No. Who could it be? What's his name from The Office?
Or David Brent, Ricky Gervais.
David Brent. Yeah, Ricky Gervais.
Ricky Gervais, yeah, that'd be good.
That would be a bad choice. I'd be insulted by that.
Are you not a Ricky Gervais fan?
Yes, I am. But I wouldn't want him to play me in the film of my life. No way. But yes, I'm a huge Ricky Gervais fan.
Like Mr. Bean. I know Sean
Mr.
Bean.
Bean.
Sorry, Sean Bean.
Sean Bean.
Not Mr. Bean. Sean Bean. Sean Bean. Really? Sean Bean, the Mr. Voiceover Man, as well as being an amazing actor, he voices over everything at the moment. But yeah, no, not Mr. Bean. Rowan Atkinson. That would have been a hilarious choice if you said Rowan Atkinson as Mr. Bean.
Yeah, all day.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, we've got another question. This is actually for both of you guys. So, if you were invited to investigate a location where a brutal crime took place, such as the estate of the mass murderer Ed Gein, would you jump at the chance to investigate it, or would you consider it ethically distasteful?
It depends. Well,
I know my answer to that.
what's your answer?
No, I definitely wouldn't do that. But you would.
But you wouldn't do it because of the
Yeah,
location.
no. It's like I don't. Yeah, we always have this another healthy argument about asylums. I just don't agree. I think that's something that I would never do. I wouldn't do that. But
From an ethical
standpoint, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think I'd be.
So it'd be the same sort of thing.
Party pooper on that one, I'm afraid.
With the mass murderers. For me, kind of half and half. It would depend on the time.
Yeah.
So if you're in a situation where the family of both the perpetrator and the victims have all passed away, and it's that distance away, so that you're not offending anybody, then I would. Yes, I would. And I'd be interested in doing it because I'm a parapsychologist, but also a forensic psychologist. So I'd be interested in it from a forensic point of view as well, not just the parapsychology side. So yeah, I'd jump at the chance. But if it's a recent one, I know there's been quite a lot of controversy in the paranormal field about some groups going to recent crime scenes or recent houses where things like that have happened. And yeah, ethically, I wouldn't. No.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with you as well. Like, because there's like a few cases around us, you know, like the 3 girls that got murdered at a Cannock Chase.
Oh, yes.
And because that's very local to me, you know, it's only like 20 minutes down the road. You know, my mom remembers the story because she was the same age as the little girls when they got kidnapped. And you know, that's always like when you go into Cannock Chase, it's one place like you always try and avoid as much as possible, or not trying to bring it up. But I think some people would bring it up and go, you know, go to the actual location and the spot where these kids were found. But the thing is, you know, their family still lives around, like where we are. You know, they're still around.
Yeah.
And I just think it is distasteful. I mean, we actually had a message the other day, telling us to go check out. Oh, what was the house that got demolished? And they they buried the kids underneath the patio.
The West.
Yeah, and yeah, that's the one. And they asked us, there's like, could you go and check, you know, the location there to maybe do an investigation in that alleyway? And it's like, I don't know, man. It's a bit bad, to be honest.
Yeah.
So it's things like that. You just can't do it. But
But there was a show, I can't remember the name of it. Maybe people in the chat room can say, but there was a show in North America about 3 or 4 years ago. I want to say Crime Scene Ghost, but that wasn't the name of it. But effectively, it was that they had a series, and it was just one season where they had a group, and they would only investigate crime scene houses.
Yeah.
And what they would do was that they would lie down. Haunted crime scene. Oh, maybe that's
Blood
it.
and Ghosts.
Blood and Ghosts.
Okay.
They would lie down in the place where the body was found, and they would lie down in that exact position, and they would draw around it as well, and they would use that as a central point to do a seance and everything. Horrific. Absolutely horrific. And that's exactly the sort of thing that you're saying, you know. And there was a whole show based around it in North America, and you know, it was quite popular, although I think because of the sensational nature of it, it didn't go any further than the first season. But yeah.
I mean, what's your views on celebrity spirit boxes? Because they're very, very popular on YouTube. of a recently deceased celebrity. I mean, I think the last one I've seen that caused a bit of controversy was it was in Major Tom. It was in the old man who walked around who
No.
and
Sorry.
and he passed
Yes.
away, and
Yeah.
like within hours there was a spirit box session of this person apparently contacting Major Tom. What's your opinions on that? Do you think that's just as more of the same, just
Yeah, big
distasteful?
no. Just very distasteful.
Yeah.
Very distasteful. It's like walking up to somebody at a funeral and saying, "Do you want me to contact your dead grandmother?" You know, it's just awful. Really distasteful. So, you know, the fact that you've got somebody that's recently deceased, and then you've got people using a spirit box to try and contact that person, but they release it publicly. You know, it's different. Whatever you do behind your closed doors or for your investigation, as long as it's not released, you know, we can never know about that. But if it's released publicly and you're somewhat proud of it, yeah, ethically, I just don't think that's appropriate at all, because you're not then considering the impact of that on the person's family at all. You know,
Yeah, I mean, it was actually the other day. I think I can't remember whose video I went to watch. It was like a paranormal video. I think it was yesterday. Can't remember who it was. But there was an advert on YouTube just before, you know, like how adverts play, and it was a spirit box session of Robin Williams, and he was like, oh, you know, we contact Robin Williams, and I was like, oh my God, it's even in the advertisements, you know, before a
wow,
video. It shocked me, to be honest. I was like, whoa.
wow.
But yeah, I'll never support anyone or anything like that. Anyway, back to you know, we got another question,
Okay.
and this is for the two of you. Have you guys ever had a spirit follow you back home that you're aware of?
I'd give you my answer. No, not for me. No,
Uh,
Anna.
I think the smile gives it away. I think there's a big yes in this one. Let's hear
no,
it, Anna.
Well, there's a story. I think.
Yeah, let's hear the
yeah.
story.
So I mentioned before that I grew up in this really old, like, farmhouse. It's like 300 years old, converted farmhouse, and from a very early age, I was always aware of this presence in the house. When I was little, I used to see something glide into my room, stand at the foot of my bed, and then it went on for years, and then it just gradually used to just drift out again. And so we were always, my brother and I were always aware of this thing in the house. Like, there's a certain time in the morning you couldn't go downstairs, like between 5 and 6 were just, sorry, 3 and 6 were complete no-nos, because you always used to just feel this horrendous atmosphere, and used to be ice cold spots as well. So this, you know, lots of different things went on, but the one thing that really freaked me out, I was doing ghost hunt events. I wasn't living at home, but I had done 2 nights of ghost hunt events. So I'd done a Friday night event and I'd done a Saturday night event, finishing, so I barely had like 5 hours sleep each night. And I'd stayed over at my mum's because I was living in Sussex at the time, so it was like a halfway house to get there, and obviously in the early hours of the morning I didn't want to drive all the way home. And that night, well, no, in the early hours of the morning, I woke up and heard, and it's the horrible dawning realization when you think you're dreaming, and then you actually wake up and you actually think you're hearing this stuff, and you think, actually, no, I'm wide awake, I'm listening to this. And it was the sound of 3 women arguing, but it was like they're arguing, and then there's like a hushed, like a whispering, like, look, you know, don't wake, don't,
Like they'd been heard.
like
or
they'd been
something.
heard. And it was like 3 women, then there was like raised voices, and they went very muffled. You can only hear snippets of what they were saying. And this went on for about 5 minutes. And I remember that I was in my, I don't know how old I was, I must have been early 30s. I remember being absolutely just frozen with fear, thinking, oh my God, I'm actually awake and I'm hearing this. Where the hell is this coming from? And it stopped. It sort of drifted away and stopped. And I went downstairs and told my mum what I'd heard. And she went, and it's the only two times in my life she's ever gone white as a sheet. And she went white as a sheet, and she said, oh my gosh, you know, your brother, who was also staying there at the time, has just come down, has just told me that a similar experience is what he's had, but literally the same night, but earlier. So he had heard in the room where I'd heard these voices, this rustling in boxes, the storage boxes that we had in there, and he'd heard women arguing as well. And I remember texting the medium that I was doing an event with. So I had 2 mediums. It sounds awful. I had 2 mediums. I had 2 mediums on the Friday night and the Saturday night as guests at my event. And I remember texting both of them saying, oh my gosh, you know, I'm really, really worried. Could I potentially have brought something back with me? or because obviously I'd done 2 events at 2 different locations, and long events from like 8 o'clock in the night, beginning of the night, to like 3-4 in the morning. Could I potentially have brought something home? And one of them said no, because we closed down, we closed everything down and we blessed everything, so it's fine. And then the other one said, actually, potentially, yes, you could have done. I was like, oh God. This is before I met you, wasn't it?
Yes.
But it's always been my fear that, potentially you could be an investigation and bring something back, because it was just weird that night, that morning, that I heard the stuff, and that my brother experienced the same, the similar stuff. He heard things. There was the night that I had 2 back-to-back investigations. So I don't know. It's the answer, but I just don't like to think that potentially, yes, there could be a chance that you can. Yeah.
But I always say no from my perspective. I'm the wrong person to ask about experience, but I always say no because I always think about them being location focused, the spirits that you encounter at a location. So, there are 2 different views here. One which is very personal in terms of actually having an experience, and then one, me kind of taking a step back as somebody that doesn't necessarily have these experiences, but looks at it and says, well, hauntings are location focused. So I think about the logic and I think, wow, I can't see how that could happen in terms of a logic. But, there's a spiritualist viewpoint as well. So you've got to look at both sides.
Yeah. Because it's funny, isn't it? Because although, different investigations, I did different mediums. Some mediums used to do like, proper sort of closing down, which used to make you feel safe. If you're a participant or an event organizer, you always used to like breathe a sigh of relief, because you think, great, you got no comeback on that. But and then others just said, no, yeah, you could potentially bring something. You'll be fine. So
brilliant. We got a question here from Anne Metallica. So this one's for Ciarán. What are your thoughts about premonitions and nightmares that could be warnings that could happen in reality? I get a lot of different nightmares that come true in the future. I'm scared. So the question is, what are your thoughts about premonitions and nightmares?
So two responses to that, which is a brilliant question. The skeptical side and then the non-skeptical side. So the skeptical side would be, we always need to be careful about those dream sequences that we think are premonitions. And the reason why is because on average, we may have anything up to about 250 dream clips or dream stories on a given night. 250. That's how many times we could have a dream story during the night. Now, that's one particular night. You times that then by 7 for a week. And in those 250 times 7, is there the potential for you to have a dream of something negative happening? So say, for example, a train crash or a car crash or a plane crash, something like that. The chances of that happening are quite high. If you then times that by the number of weeks in a month, or times that by the number of people in a household, it becomes a probability thing. There's bound to be an occasion where you dream of something and within a month of you dreaming, it comes true. Right? So that's the skeptical side of things. And related to that is you will only ever remember the hits. You'll remember those dreams that specifically tie into a future event. You'll forget the other hundreds and hundreds that you just naturally forget when you wake up, or that they don't tie into anything.
So I mean, kind of like a medium, I suppose. Like when them cold reading, and when they're throwing loads of stuff and nothing's hitting, you forget it, don't you, straight away? But when there's something that sticks with you, you're like, well, how could they have known that? I was like, but how about all the other things that they got wrong? Are we just meant to, forget about that? Those things never happened. So I think, that's, works the same into the dream world.
But that is the skeptical side. The non-skeptical side comes from my work when I was based at Hertfordshire, where I was there when 9/11 happened. And within a few days of 9/11 happening, we were inundated with phone calls and various contact from mediums and other people claiming that they had dreamt that it was going to happen. Now, it's great because that's evidence, but it's not proof of anything because you're telling us after it happened. So anything could be going on there. But in answer to the question, there's a non-skeptical response, which is, if you're interested in this and interested in the possibility that it's happening, there are a couple of reputable websites out there that are run by parapsychologists where they are effectively dream logs. You can actually log on, you can record your dream, and it's date and time stamped. And you can just do it continuously. It's almost like an online dream diary, if you will. But at least by doing that, when you then say, well, look, that dream came true, it's been logged beforehand with a date and with a time. So then it becomes more impressive, more evidential. So, so that side of things, I would say that for Anne, she could do something like that, start logging these dreams and kind of get a sense of what are hits, what are misses, but also then you've got an accurate record of what's going on. But also, I wouldn't be scared of this, because if there is any truth to it, I genuinely wouldn't be scared about the fact that you're having these flashes of premonition, and they are flashes. Because if you're wake up one morning and you remember a dream, you're remembering one out of about 250 dreams. So it's literally just a flash. So I certainly wouldn't be concerned about it at all. But I also wouldn't be concerned about it to the extent where you feel like you have to do something and act on your dream, other than do start keeping a dream diary and maybe log on to one of these sites that you can find quite easily to be able to kind of get an accurate record of what's going on.
Yeah, well, I hope that answers your question, Anna Metallica. That was a good question.
Anna Metallica, yeah.
We got a question here from my good friend, Mr. Dead called Paranormal, and it's a question for Ciarán and Anna. Will you guys be going on an investigation with Griff and Stee, that's the Ouija brothers, this year? Over to you guys.
Yes.
I'd love to.
Big time.
It'd probably be you though, because I'd have to look after the children. But
we could try and work something out, even if it's the back garden. We could work something out.
Yeah, I mean,
definitely. We'd love to. Absolutely
I'd
love to.
Really would love to.
Really would. Really would. We already talked about Oxford Castle just up the road as a possible venue, but we could talk about others. But I think it would be amazing.
Yeah, that'd be really good.
I think it would be really good. Yeah,
I mean,
really good.
I mean, get your parents to look after the kids. You know, they can babysit. And,
well, we could even go for an underground venue during the day.
Yeah, and people wouldn't even know, would they?
We wouldn't know. Shh! Oh, we just said it.
So yeah, I mean that would be amazing. We do get asked that a lot of times. You know, if we could work with you, and yeah, but you know, with the lockdown and everything at the moment, it's a bit broken at the so far. But I think they say around June that things should be opening up a lot better. I think May. I know event companies are opening up back around May time. So yeah, definitely, why not?
Fingers crossed. Yeah, big time.
And Oxford Castle, you know, that'd be amazing. I'd love to do Oxford Castle. A question here for Ciarán, and this is one of my questions before we go back onto the fans' questions. From a parapsychologist perspective, is spiritual possession a real possibility? Are you convinced by the Annalise Michelle and Janet Hodgson were victims of possession? And do you know of any recent cases of alleged possession here in the UK?
Wow, so there's lots of questions there with the possession.
Three questions in one.
Yeah, three
all
questions
about
in one.
possessions.
That's cheeky. All about possession. Well, let me be clear. From a parapsychologist point of view, parapsychology wouldn't look at this at all.
Very interesting.
In terms of possession, they wouldn't. It doesn't come under the remit of parapsychology. It comes under my remit because I've been interested in kind of parapsychological claims within religion for a number of different, number of years. Brought up an Irish Roman Catholic, and within that religion, you hear about possession and exorcism all the time. So I've been brought up with that, and I'm fascinated by it, and I've done lots of research on it. From my perspective, I'm not convinced by the idea of spirit possession at all. I think there's too many explanations, psychological, psychiatric, but also neurological as well, kind of to do with the brain. I think there's too many explanations for what's going on, even to the extent where there's stuff that we're discovering in neurology within the last few years, and I say few years, even 3 to 4 years, that now can help explain some possession cases that were question marks originally. So, there's stuff like anti-NMDA receptor encephalitis, Sounds really complicated, but we really only knew about it in the medical literature about 5 or 6 years ago. And so I'm doing some research at the moment with a neurologist looking at exactly the link between that and possession cases. So I'm very, very skeptical about that sort of stuff. The second part of the question related to Anneliese Michel and Janet Hodgson, which are two very different cases. Anneliese Michel happened in Germany. And in that particular case, the family were very religious. They thought that Anneliese was possessed. There were a number of exorcism rituals that were done constantly, but also there are various rituals that Anneliese was encouraged to engage in, but also she starved herself as well, and it had a horrific end to it. Anneliese Michel actually died as a direct result of being involved in those exorcism rituals. So it's always the most extreme case that people turn to. In my opinion, no, she wasn't possessed at all. You know, there was a very good medical explanation for what was going on with her. Janet Hodgson is very different. That's the figure at the center of the Enfield poltergeist. And the claim was that she was possessed by Bill, somebody who was based at Enfield and started to speak with a gruff voice. And again, I'm not convinced by that. But it kind of tips a little bit over into a possible explanation, which is slightly paranormal, which is there's that potential for kind of not possession, but feeling as though you are being taken over by the spirit and you don't have a conscious awareness of what you're saying. And it's almost like a dissociative state. You can start talking as if you're that particular person, talking as if you're Bill or whoever the possessing spirit is, but not have a conscious sense that you're doing it. So therefore it wouldn't be fakery because you're not doing it, but it's kind of you're taken over in a weird way. And I think that's a lovely way of explaining some of these cases that are just big question marks, to be honest. I think that's a nice way that kind of crosses that boundary between paranormal and normal. The last part was any UK cases recently or possession cases. There's been a couple of cases in London that have become quite severe, where there were possession cases and the family took very drastic action and actually kind of conducted rituals that resulted in a lot of harm for the victim. So there are a few cases in London. Beyond that, you don't hear so much about them, and I think because there is a negative association. But there are, you know, being in touch with various exorcists and people that are involved in this area, there are exorcisms going on, you know, and they are quite regular as well. So there are people that feel as though they're possessed and that the only way that they can deal with it is by turning to an exorcist. So it does still happen.
I think it was on the Battersea Poltergeist. They actually interviewed a man who, like, was basically the Exorcist, I believe, and he was
Yes.
talking about like how many phone calls he gets, like daily, doesn't he? He gets contacted all the time about
40 a
possessions.
day or something, he said.
40 a day possessions.
Yes, Ralph Keaton was his name. So either he gets 40 calls a day about possessions, or he's a very good PR person.
Without a doubt.
We just don't know. You know, he might genuinely get these calls. They might all be possessions, or they might not be, or it's an estimate of how many calls he gets. So,
A question here from Rebecca for Ciarán. What are your views on remote viewing?
oh, that's a good question. I'm fascinated by remote viewing. I'm fascinated going back to the mid 90s, 94, 95, when I first started to look into remote viewing because of Stargate program. So the CIA set up a program called Stargate, which was where they looked at the possibility of individuals being able to send or paranormally travel to another location to be able to get information. So kind of a typical application of that would be somebody sitting in an office in, say, New York and being asked, can you go over to a basement somewhere in the Middle East where there are hostages being held and describe that basement to us and describe where they're being held. And remote viewing is effectively being able to do that, kind of almost traveling your mind over to that place and being able to get that information. And the CIA had this whole series that they call Stargate, this remote viewing project where they invested lots of money in scientists. And I've met the original scientist that was involved in that, and also met some of the remote viewers that were involved in it as well. And I'm fascinated by it. I'm fascinated by the concept, and it shows an interesting application to be able to remote view things. I remain skeptical about the evidence, but I think for some of these superstar remote viewers, I think it's fascinating. I really do think it's fascinating, and I think the application. Why not? If you claim that you can do it, why not use it for those sorts of purposes? You know, to try and help in kind of that sort of context. So yeah, fascinating.
Yeah. Question here for Anna. As the wife of a parapsychologist, what is it that people don't understand or fully appreciate about this particular field of work until they're living and breathing it?
Oh God. Jeez.
That's a tough question, isn't it?
It is a tough question.
I guess it's related to the point of before you knew me, what did you think my job might be? And then when we got married and settled down, here we go, confession time.
No, I had no idea what a parapsychologist was when I met you, though, did I? I had no idea what you did.
No,
You were. Oh God.
not at all.
If
you had to explain to somebody what a parapsychologist is, maybe the key thing is it's not as exciting as people think.
No, I'd say that it's not as exciting. You have some random stuff, don't you? Some really weird stuff. It's not as I think as glamorous as they make out to be.
That's true.
You get an awful lot of rubbish. Sorry.
It's fine.
Well, no, you do. You know, you get some really random requests and.
Oh, that's true. Yes,
oh, God.
We've had some random ones in the past, haven't we? What was that? The Indian chief one we had.
Oh God.
I get random text. Yeah, right. I've got to be very careful what I say. But yeah, I do get some random people asking me to investigate cases, and I've had texts from people and emails and letters
wanting to investigate the haunted chicken or whatever it was.
Oh, the haunted chicken. Yeah, that was the haunted chicken, and the haunted sandwich as well.
We had that one.
Yeah. So that's the less glamorous side of parapsychology, which is almost the humorous side, where people want to investigate the weirdest stuff.
There's never a dull moment, put it that way. There's never a dull day in this house.
It's always random.
There's amazing stuff. You know, you just learn about stuff that you'd never even dream of. So, yeah, yes. I didn't answer the question.
Yeah, it's a tough question.
Yeah,
it's a toughie.
We got a question here. David Wells often would talk about specific changes in a room based on events relating to hauntings, a new window or a wall, location, etc. Were they ever confirmed, or was he ever found out to be wrong?
That's a good question. Where he's using his mediumship ability to be able to say, "Oh, that wall wasn't there before," or "What I'm seeing is that." Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times that happened, but related to that is people often ask me about mediums and who do I respect the most, and who do I recommend. And David Wells is always somebody who I put forward, not necessarily in terms of communicating with the dead, but just somebody who I respect in terms of their mediumship and their approach to the paranormal. He does past life regression work. He's interested in Kabbalah and kind of self-development, but also the mediumship involved in Most Haunted. So I'm trying to think. I cannot think of a circumstance where on a location he came up with there used to be a door there or a window or a wall, and he was shown to be wrong. I can't think of a circumstance where that happened. In answer to the question, because that was the question, wasn't it? Yeah, I can't think of any circumstance where that would be the case. I think David himself would argue that he wouldn't in those circumstances he wouldn't necessarily be seeing it clearly like a clairvoyant, as in where you see it. It's that sense of this feels wrong. it feels like this wall wasn't here, or this feels wrong about this door. It feels like this wasn't. It's that sort of clairsentient working, which I think he's more comfortable with. But no, I can't recall any time where he was found to be wrong.
Okay, well, that's interesting. Question here from Steve Rolfe. This is for both of you. What are your thoughts on
Brilliant.
time slips, and do you think they really happen?
Can I tell you about one that I'm impressed by?
Sure.
Because yeah, I'm very skeptical of them. You get the feeling that I'm skeptical about stuff. But I lived and worked for quite a time in Liverpool. And in Liverpool, there's a street called Bold Street that walks down, for people that know Liverpool, walks down from kind of where the cathedral is down, kind of the Mount area from the cathedral into the centre of town. And it's the street that leads you right into the Liverpool city centre. It's called Bold Street. And there's some really impressive time slip reports where people have literally walked down that road, and they've walked down it modern day, and suddenly it's slipped into a time that's 100 years before, where suddenly the road surface changes, the people around them are all dressed as if they would have been 100 years before. Even the front of the shops, suddenly WH Smith's and Boots have gone. It's kind of different fronts to the shop. Everything just completely changes. And it's not just one account, it's multiple accounts. And so, because I spent some time in Liverpool, and there are various researchers who I knew that looked into that, I think it's fascinating. I'm slightly skeptical, but that is an impressive case when you've got lots of different people reporting a similar thing, and it's not hugely advertised. I mean, within Liverpool, I guess it's maybe more so known about, but otherwise, yeah, I don't think it's known so much. What do you think? Do you think it's possible to have time slip into a different time randomly?
Yeah, no, not a little bit more skeptical about that one. No,
Yeah.
I don't.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen someone here say, if this is from Jess Misty, Good Night Sweetheart Style. Remember that TV
Yes.
series with Rodney? I remember
Yes.
this when I was a kid, and he kind of slips into another timeline, doesn't he?
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah, and here's something interesting. Even though I'm skeptical of it, and other people might be skeptical of it, why is it any different from having a haunting experience in a location?
Exactly.
If you walk into a room in a castle and suddenly you see Henry VIII, or you see Anne Boleyn, or you walk into a dining room and the dining room is full of people, or you hear the clatter and the chatter as people are sitting at that dining table, dining hall in a big castle, surely that is getting to an element of a time slip.
Exactly.
Just throwing it out there.
Yeah. I mean that's like,
Good thought.
like whenever people ask me like what's my thoughts on, like, the paranormal, do I believe in ghosts and stuff, I always kind of go back to, like time slips. It could be some kind of glitch in the universe, where it's
Glitch
kind
in
of
the Matrix.
glitch in the Matrix all day. That's what I always say. But spirits and dead people. I think the more I've done paranormal investigating, the less I actually believe, that it to be, once you die, you turn into a spirit, and if you're powerful enough, you can, create all this energy. Because if that's the case, everywhere would be haunted, and be having major amounts of activity everywhere. But it just doesn't really happen. So I've kind of gone more the route of, I think it's just like time slips or the glitch. But it's still fascinating, whatever it is. But the thing is, again, it's just theories. We have no idea what the hell's going on. I just want that adrenaline rush of when something does happen. It's like, oh my god, what was that?
Yeah.
That's the main thing that I want to do.
Absolutely.
I mean, question for both of you here: have you ever come across any weird paranormal conspiracy theories during your time of being alive?
Weird conspiracy theories.
Yeah, paranormal.
That's a very good question. Well, yes, I guess from my perspective, because of some work that I've done last year that was on something called haunted people syndrome. So this idea that you feel like you are plagued by ghosts. So there's particular people that feel like they're plagued by ghosts. And I worked on it with some researchers, and what we were showing was that there are people who feel like they are group stalked. There's a whole phenomena called group stalking, or another phrase for it is satellite terrorism, where you feel like you are being plagued and scrutinized and observed and watched by organizations, right? So people talk about men in black, kind of individuals, they're part of an organization. This is bigger than that. This is effectively saying you feel like the CIA, the FBI, the defense organizations, the electricity companies, they're all kind of observing what you're doing, right? Almost to the extent of paranoia. Well, within that particular field, you find stories of people who report haunting type experiences as a part of them being group stalked. Effectively, they feel like all of these organizations are around watching them, and then they start reporting that excuse me, sense of presence, that something's gone missing, or a chair moves, or they see a fleeting shadow in the room, and they're trying to interpret it as the organization, CIA, FBI, Men in Black, whatever it is, but actually what they're reporting is a ghostly presence. And so there's this whole wave of satellite terrorism. There's only just started within the last few years, people reporting satellite terrorism. And if you start to look at it and Google it, you'll realize what actually people are reporting are haunting experiences, but they're just interpreting them in a very different way. So I think that's one conspiracy that I find, half conspiracy that I find interesting in the paranormal. Any other paranormal ones?
Not paranormal ones, no. Not for me, personally.
No, other than the big celebrities still being around.
Oh
So
yeah.
people like Elvis and
Oh.
Marilyn. I love those. And some of those are conspiracy theories as well, that Elvis is still around, rather than him haunting, that he's actually around. Marilyn the same. Yeah, I think that's it. I can't think of any others.
Yeah, that's the other. That's totally fine.
Same Tupac.
Tupac, yeah, Tupac.
One.
That's another one, isn't it? Question here from Martin: do you believe certain locations have a specific atmosphere that can affect your bodies or senses?
Yes.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
Well, for me, yes. Myris. 100%. As in, yeah, it makes you just
there's something about it.
Sick. Yeah. I think it's very sick with dread of going in there.
But also the body
adrenaline.
sensation, the sensation changes when you walk in.
Yeah, my heart beats faster and everything. Yeah, it's fear though, isn't it? It's fear very much.
Yes.
But yeah.
But then also, did it feel different the first time you walked in there?
Slightly.
As in walking from outside into it.
Well, that's why I took the photographs. I just had this huge, just overwhelming feeling of just that didn't want me there. That just something was there. That's why I took the photos. So.
Battery Myris
for me.
Yeah. World War II bunker on Guernsey. So yeah. So I would agree with that, but in a slightly different way. But I would agree with it that there are some locations that have kind of an atmosphere about them, and I think part of it can be history. But I think also it's that sense when I have skeptical colleagues say to me, you know what, everything you're talking about, people's haunting experiences or mediumship, it's all rubbish. And I say, well, is it rubbish, or is there something else that we don't fully understand yet? So, for example, have you ever had the experience when you walk into a room and there are people in that room and you know that they've just had an argument? That kind of atmosphere, that sense that something's happened. And quite a few of us have had that experience. Now, what are we picking up on? Somebody could argue, well, are we picking up on body language? But actually, it's something more than that. There's a definite atmosphere change when you walk into a room and there's been a huge blazing row in that particular room. So there isn't a huge leap from that to go, well, what about if you find a location, walk into a location where it's had a horrible kind of negative, horrific past with all of that negativity, you walk in and you feel that atmosphere. You know, that's not a huge leap between those two experiences. And we know, you can ask people in the chat room, I'm sure a lot of people have had that experience where they walked into a room and sensed that something bad has happened, you know. So yeah, I agree with it. People might be expecting me to say, well, it's the environment and, you know, there's environmental explanations. Well, yeah, sure. But there's the other side of it. Some locations just don't feel right, just feel negative.
You think that's got something maybe to like EMF, connected to EMF? Like there could be more EMF in the area that could be causing these atmosphere changes.
It could be, and I did some research at Hampton Court Palace, which is not a negative looking place. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous palace. But there's the particular area of it, the haunted gallery, where one of Henry VIII's wives was dragged kicking and screaming along it before she was taken off to the Tower of London and beheaded. So it's a horrific history associated with that corridor. And you walk into that corridor and there's an atmosphere about it, and people don't like it, and it's quite negative. Some people talk about it being oppressive, a sense of presence, just loads of different reports, but certainly an atmosphere change. What was interesting, we had physicists from Edinburgh do environmental surveys of that particular area, and they found a magnetic component of the walls was causing spikes in EMF. And so as people walked through, they're literally walking through changes in EMF, which give them a sense of something's not right. And it gives you kind of a slight sick and negative feeling. So there's a location where I would say, yes, 100%. The issue is, of course, is we're not in a position to be able to do those surveys at every single location. If we were, it would be amazing to find that that was the case. But there's one example where it was. So it's a good point, Steve. You know, Hampton Court Palace, we could show that that was the reason. In other locations, we just don't know.
Yep, exactly. Just got a donation from Darren. Amazing live stream, guys. Yeah, thank you so much for that donation, Darren. Very appreciative. Anyone who's come in, please smash the like button. It helps us out very, very much. So, yeah, help us out, share the stream out, and let's keep it going. So we got a question here for Anna. Do you have a funny or slightly embarrassing story about Ciarán that you can share with us?
Oh God.
Sorry, Ciarán.
No, that's fine. Well, I wait to hear it first.
God.
I'm sure there are loads that are non-paranormal, but people are after kind of a paranormal.
That could be
You
anything.
want to be paranormal?
No,
Doesn't
anything.
have to be paranormal. Oh, they just want an embarrassing story about me.
They'd want an
Doesn't have to
embarrassing
be
story. We want to know, you know, the man
Anything.
behind the myth. We want to know, you
A
know.
lot.
There are quite a
no,
lot.
No, as in like you're always doing. No, I'm always doing funny. You're always doing funny.
Embarrassing stuff.
Embarrassing. Oh. The most embarrassing, please. They've said. Okay.
Probably involves Guinness, doesn't it? Does it involve Guinness?
Oh,
have
God.
I embarrassed myself with Guinness?
You embarrassed himself badly in Dublin and Guinness, but that wasn't funny. It was just, yeah. Yeah, remember you got so drunk that you couldn't remember, you were barely able to walk up the steps in that bar in Dublin.
You're looking at me like, do you remember that? Where I barely remember. No. I walk up the steps. What do you mean? Oh, was that the pub with the music? Was that the place? Is that the night you're talking about, or is that somewhere else?
I was trying to think about that time that you stuck your...
What? Stuck my what?
Oh, I just can't do that one.
Why not? Why not? That's what they want to hear.
No, just
I
say
don't
about
mind.
this fly.
I what?
Stuck your... You know.
Stuck my what? No, tell that. That's fine.
No.
That's fine. I don't mind you telling that.
I have to come back to this one.
No, I don't mind you telling that. Where I stuck something. Yeah, tell that.
I know you get because I got.
Do that. Tell that story. They're begging for it.
I got in some special Amazon special boxer shorts. They got a knack of if you bend in a certain way, your willy shoots out the front. Are you so embarrassed embarrassing.
It is.
And then he forgot to undo. He didn't zip up his fly, so every time he bent forward and bent back, you don't think you were aware of it.
I don't think. No, I wasn't aware.
So
of
yeah,
it
he didn't
for
leave the house,
hours,
thank God.
apart from the postman.
It's not really fun. Yeah.
Yeah, that is funny. That's a good one. That is.
Yeah.
Well, there you
Remember,
go.
I asked if you wanted my mum to sit at the front.
I
You're mortified. You were more mortified
I
about the
was
fact that my mum was
mortified.
going to fix your boxes than you were about your willy
I
sticking
know.
it. Anyway.
See, we are learning new things about Ciarán O'Keeffe
You are.
every single day. So,
Not the serious scientist that you see in front of you.
oh, that's great.
James in the chat. Sorry.
So yeah, but we got a question here. A question for Ciarán and Anna. My granddaughter has had an imaginary friend since being tiny. Have any of your children got imaginary friends? What are your thoughts about the subject? That's to both of you.
Yeah, my eldest, he had an imaginary friend, for years, didn't
Can
he?
we say what they were called? Do you remember? Can we say that they were?
Yes, we could say it
Nobody
without saying his
listening
name.
then,
Yeah.
So they had two. He had one that was called Good Makeup, and one that was called Bad Makeup. And the Bad Makeup used to hide under his parents' bed, which used to freak the hell out of us when he used to tell us a story. And yeah, and we said on the last. Did we say on the last one?
Well, I think we might have said, but we can say it again.
Yeah,
so he
woke up in the early hours.
so is it? Yeah, this is my eldest from a previous marriage, and he would stay with us, or stays with us quite regularly. And there was one weekend where he was staying with us, and it was about, I can't remember, 2-3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
But
Both.
yeah, both of us were waking up. I think Anna nudged me to make sure I was awake. Both of us awake, and we could hear whispering. We could hear my son, who was
About 8.
about 8, 7 or 8 at the time, whispering. And we're like, what is that? Why is he whispering? You know, what's going on there? And kind of thinking, is that him or is that another voice? What's going on? And then, as we were listening, he then said, and it was him, we could hear that it was his voice versus the other voice, which didn't sound like him. He then said, shh, or they'll hear you. Plain as day. And both of us just froze, didn't we?
Mm.
Just going, oh,
yeah, because
shit,
I always
one of
said
us
to
is
you,
going
what
to have to
happens if
look.
this makeup guy isn't an
Imaginary friend, but is real.
The fact that he's, the bad makeup makes him. Oh, that was it. He said the bad makeup made him do things.
Yeah,
do you remember?
it was
starting to get a little bit sinister, and thankfully it then stopped.
Yeah, it's very creepy. So in answer to that question, which is from Jane, so my eldest did have the imaginary friend, 2 of them. Our others have not had any imaginary friends at all.
Touch wood.
But yeah, you can have an imaginary
Yeah.
friend. It can be quite healthy, quite normal part of growing up.
Did you have an imaginary friend?
Did I have an imaginary friend? Yes, I did, for about a year. It was a cross between a sheep and a devil. And I wrote about it, and it was about when I was about 6 years old. It was called a bubbleneck. And he appeared. This is weird.
well,
I'm just admitting now. He appeared in. I had recurring dreams when I was about 6 years old, and he'd appeared in that. But also, he was kind of around me as an imaginary friend for a while. A bubbleneck, yeah. It was a cross between a sheep and a devil.
Great.
There you go. That explains so much.
It really does. How about you, Anna? Did you have any imaginary friends?
No. No. Actually, no, I didn't. No.
No, I mean, one of my favourite films actually involves imaginary friends. My kids, we love it. We quote the film all the time, called "Drop Dead Fred."
Oh yes, with what's his name from
Rick.
The Young Ones, Rick Mail.
Yeah, absolutely amazing film.
Brilliant film.
Always used to watch it as a kid, and now I can share that love and amazingness with my children right now, and they love it. We're at the dinner table, always quoting that film. Very underrated, I've seen it's reviewed pretty badly. A lot of people hate on it, but then they also go, is it kind of like a psychological? Is this lady having a nervous breakdown? There's a lot of it goes
a lot of layers to it.
A lot of layers, and it's like, man, it's just like a comedy film. I love it, but absolutely amazing film.
Do check out for Jane and for others that are interested in this. Do check out my social media, because I'm doing a study at the moment with some colleagues in Manchester looking at the relationship between imaginary friends and ghosts. and kind of looking at similarity, or is there, key differences between the two? Is there a way of identifying a ghost versus an imaginary friend? So check that out, because there's a link to a survey that we're doing about that. So I'll post that again later on tonight.
Definitely. Seeing a few comments in the chat. A few people doing some of the famous quotes. Cobwebs, snotface.
Snotface was the classic. Yeah.
Snotface was like. There's so many good ones. You've been doing it with the pigeons. I love that one. Absolutely amazing. So every time I always think about Drop Dead Fred and doing the quotes, it's like, man, I want to watch it. I want to put it on. But absolutely amazing film. Anyway, back onto some of the questions. So we've got a few more questions. And then remember, guys, keep throwing your questions in the chat, and I will get into it, and we will ask Ciarán and Anna some of your questions. But here's another one for Ciarán. As a scientist of the paranormal, what steps do you take during a routine investigation?
Good question, because actually investigating a location that has come to my attention as a parapsychologist rather than a ghostbuster, it would be months and months and months before I actually ended up at the location. You would have months and months of pre-investigation, and a lot of that would be interviewing. A lot of it would be interviewing the primary witness, but then also, subsidiary witnesses around that primary witness, as well as, do you need to do any research about the location, the history, that sort of thing. So it'd be a lot of stuff that you would do before you actually ended up at a location. But that all builds up then a picture of your prime suspect in a haunting. And by prime suspect, I mean prime explanation. So if you do all of the interviews and all of the groundwork, you'll get an idea of, should I be looking for infrasound, or should I be looking for EMF, or should I be looking for humidity, or close to water as well. There's kind of water seepage as a possible explanation for a lot of paranormal experiences, those sorts of things. So having identified the prime suspect, you then go into the investigation in order to discount it. So you're looking for those things and saying, can we cross them off the list, which therefore then might be paranormal. So whenever you end up at a location, investigating the actual location, it'll be with environmental monitoring equipment to try and look for those possible prime suspects first and discount those before you then do any sort of investigation. And then there's a particular approach that parascience take, where they put members of a group or investigators into a location without telling them about the location at all, and they just have them in the location reading a book, playing on a PlayStation, whatever it is, but not actually ghost hunting, even if they're just chatting. And the reason why, because the majority of haunting experiences that people have that lead you to a location, they are just going about their everyday lives. They're not sitting there looking for ghosts. So to try and mimic that by having other members of the group sit in and talk to each other and do other stuff and be distracted, I think is a really good way of building up possible evidence. And the analogy that's always used is, if you're sitting watching TV and you're focused on the television, you will know if a spider comes across the carpet. I mean, that's tiny, but you'll know it. And it's the same sort of thing. You could be sat chatting to somebody or reading a book or plays in a haunted environment. If something happens, you'll know it. You'll see it out of the corner of your eye. So that's kind of the steps in a very short, kind of very brief summary of some of the steps that I would take as a parapsychologist. Good question.
Yeah. Here's another one. Like I say, we are firing them quick and fast, because we've got a lot of questions. We can't get through them all, but we're trying to do as many as possible. One here from Porcelain Lady. Question for you both. If you could ask a question to someone famous that has died, who would he be and what would you ask them?
I'll let him answer that. I've got to go. Sorry.
Famous person? Oh wow, I guess there'd be loads. One of the people I would ask would be Arthur Conan Doyle. I would want to speak to Arthur Conan Doyle and find out if he still believes that the Cottingley fairies were real. So Arthur Conan Doyle, people know, as the author of Sherlock Holmes, but also he was a spiritualist. He worked for a while with Harry Houdini on seances and mediums, but they had a huge fight, and they kind of saw things very differently after that point. But he's also known for his work investigating the Cottingley fairies. And we look back at that now, and you look at the photos and you just go, it's so obviously fake. So obviously fake. But at the time, he was very much sold on what he was being presented with. And I just think it would be really nice to speak to him now and go, what do you think now? Another person related to that would be Harry Price. I'd like to know from Harry Price what he really thought of Borley Rectory, the most haunted house in England, 100%. So yeah, I'd definitely want to know that. So there'd be those two, but that's more the ghost hunting side of things. If I had the choice of somebody that I could genuinely get in contact with, it would be Mozart. I think I'd want to know whether he was poisoned or he just died of old age.
Yeah.
And he could tell me.
I couldn't think, like, if that was on to me, like, who would I want to talk to? That's a hard one, to be honest. Now, I'd ask Kurt Cobain to see if he
Oh, Kurt, yeah.
See if he did actually get murdered or if that was suicide, because there's a big conspiracies that he was murdered by Courtney Love and everything like that. We won't go into that territory, but I always think that was such a shame that he passed away when he did.
Yeah.
I mean, just imagine how big they would have been, if he carried on. I mean, there was already huge when he was part of Nirvana. So
yeah, can you imagine? Yeah.
Well, look at Foo Fighters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Foo Fighters are huge, and they kind of spawned, from Nirvana in a way.
Yeah.
But I
wouldn't say it's a claim to fame.
Definitely
I wouldn't
not.
say it's a claim to fame, but as a little aside and a little bit of trivia, I saw the bassist of Foo Fighters naked. That's just a random bit of trivia people want to know. I was living in Madrid at the time, and I was staying in a flat with a bunch of people, a bunch of teachers, and one of the teachers, there was a music festival just outside of Madrid. Foo Fighters were playing, and she hooked up with the bassist and brought him back to the flat. And in the middle of the night, he walked through the lounge where myself and various others were sleeping, and he was stark bollock naked. There you go.
Yeah. More truths from Ciarán O'Keeffe. Everything. It's all coming out. Well, as Anna's still away, we've got a few more questions for Anna.
She's coming back now.
I'm here, but I'm hovering because the children are stirring. Sorry, so I'm just hovering by the door.
I know that feeling. I mean, if anyone heard any banging about 20 minutes ago, it was nothing poltergeist. There was nothing haunted. It was just the kids upstairs going crazy. Laura was getting him into bed, so I know exactly how Ciarán and Anna are feeling this second. You try and give them the death stare. You try and say, shut up, get up, but it don't work. Death stare doesn't work at all.
Doesn't work.
No, you've got to run at them with a hand, or get a weapon or something like. I'm only joking. Before everyone starts reporting me to child services. So yeah. Anyway, for you, Anna, what famous person would you want to talk to? Who's died, and what would you ask him?
Oh God.
Any celebrity. It can be anybody. Anybody famous.
I was always fascinated by the case of Brittany Murphy. The Happy Feet. The girl that was the voice of Happy Feet. Don't look at me like that.
I don't know.
Brittany
Who are
Murphy.
you talking about?
She's the blonde petite actress. They always wonder whether or not her husband bumped her off or not.
I don't know that case. Brittany Murphy.
Yeah.
I don't know. Wow.
Blonde actress. Oh God. Please don't tell me I've just made a name out. Hang on.
It probably exists. What would you ask her?
in the chat.
Brittany Murphy.
Brittany Murphy, yeah. She was, yeah.
Happy Feet. Happy Feet is an animated. It's an animated penguin film.
Oh.
That way.
There. No. Her. Oh God.
Okay.
Move it that way. There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, I recognise her.
Yeah. Do you remember it was this case? They wonder if her husband and her mum bumped her off or not.
No, really.
And then the husband died in suspicious circumstances as well. It was all very odd.
Oh wow.
So yeah, I'm fascinated.
There you go.
There you go. Just what I've always wondered. Oh, what happened there? There you go.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's that's who you want to ask.
Well, exactly as yours. Who was yours?
Arthur Conan Doyle and
God,
Harry Price and Mozart.
Yeah. He gave us
That's
3.
a dinner
He's
party,
he's
isn't it?
contacting all the dead. He couldn't just have one. He had to give us 3. But that's great. Mine was Kurt Cobain.
Kurt Cobain's brilliant.
It's
Yes.
really life, isn't it now?
Question here from Melissa Jones. What are your thoughts of the ancient ramin? Do you believe the stories and activity? What happened there? Do you think it's real or fake? Have you ever investigated the ramin? I'm sure you have.
Yes. Yeah, I have.
You weren't there
Yeah.
for the most haunted one, was you?
Yes.
Was you?
That was one of the very early ones. So I think it was probably the 2nd or 3rd most haunted that I ever did. So the first one was Black Swan and Devizes, and then I went over and did Kinnety Castle and Castle Leslie in Ireland, and then did a castle in Holland, and then came back to the UK, and it was Ancient Ramin, one of the first ever ones that I did, and that was the famous most haunted where Stuart apparently was collapsed and was pulled by spirits, and Derek was trying to hold him back. That was that classic episode. What do I think of Ancient Ramin? I think it's a fantastic location, and I think it's on the Ghost Hunters map. So it's a location that everybody should do, mainly because of the history. It's so old, absolutely so old, and there's some, amazing historical facts about the case as well, which I think are great. I'm probably the wrong person to ask in terms of whether I think it's haunted or not, because of course nothing happened to me when I investigated it. Anything that happened to the team, I was very, very skeptical about it. But I will always treasure the experience because I was there when John Humphreys was there, and I was able to chat to him and have dinner with John Humphreys as well. So yeah, fantastic.
I was just asked that actually in the chat whether or not you met him.
There you go. That was a bit predicting the future. So yeah, so fantastic location for that reason. I think it's on the map, but it's one of those controversial ones. Some people say it's brilliant, it's really haunted, and other people say not so sure. So I just think it's fantastic no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, I've done the Ancient Ramin a few times. I think most times not a lot happens. I remember one of the times we were there, and look, me and Griff actually left, and I left my brother there because trying to sleep at the ramin, it's dirty and dingy.
Dusty, isn't it?
Yeah, it's real dusty. So like we headed off to the hotel, and my brother stayed there, and he actually, like, burglars come to rob the place. They was looking through the window trying to get in, and he had to like get up and like make noise and like say, oh listen, someone's in this house. And because he was so scared of my car being vandalized or damaged or robbed, he went to walk into the car, but he accidentally forgot to take the key with him. So he locked himself out of the Ancient Ramin at about 2 o'clock in the morning, and he had to go into the car, sleep in the car. He couldn't ring me because he left everything inside there, and he spent his entire night inside my car while and left everything inside the Ancient Ramin. So that was probably the best activity we've had inside there, and he weren't even paranormal. But it's a fascinating place, though.
Brilliant place.
It's a good place. We did go there one time, and we did get like a lot of bangs and like hear things like that. The house is very rickety.
Yeah.
That you got to remember, and it's next to a main road, so when cars are going past, like the wind and stuff, can unsettle.
And it's just one of those places when people start saying, "Look at this photo of orbs that I've got from Ancient Ramin," and I just go, "It's one of the dustiest places that I've ever seen."
Yeah, like
really
the camera
is.
doesn't really do
Not
it just.
really.
Like when you're there, you can feel the thickness of the dust. It is on
It's that
another
bad.
level. So here's a question for Anna. What do you think are the chances of your children growing up and having an interest in the paranormal? So actually, it can be a question for both of you.
Hi. Hi. Yeah. My eldest is already. It's the weirdest thing. Do you remember when he was into Ghostbusters? He started to get into Ghostbusters before you even mentioned it.
Yeah, true.
And he started. What did he wanted? Was it a Ghostbuster costume or something?
Very early, like
and he
3
hadn't
or
even
4
seen it. He'd
years
just
old.
seen it a few times. I think. Oh, actually, probably had seen it.
No, I hadn't seen it at all because we made it. An agreement that Ghostbusters is quite a scary film, to be honest. Especially that opening scene in the library. It is a scary film. So we weren't going to show it to him at age 2.
No, he has
or
never
3.
seen it, has he?
No, he still hasn't seen it. But actually, it was about the age of 3 when he started to say about Was it Ghostbusters or what was it? Yeah, I can't remember.
It was some. Oh, I can't remember what it was. It was something before Ghostbusters, wasn't it? But yeah, it's just something we both of us looked at each other and went, "Oh, all right, that's interesting."
Yeah, he just started to become obsessed with Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Even though I hadn't said anything about it. I mean, it might have been the fact I was wearing a Ghostbusters
Probably.
t-shirt. Could have been that. Could have been that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've always said, yeah, it's the whole thing, isn't it? If we're doing ghost hunting.
Do you remember where my daughter saw, what picture was it? What haunted location was it?
The Winchester Mystery House.
Winchester Mystery House. We had a postcard. Was it like a frame or like a sign? I don't know what it was.
Yeah, postcard.
We had something, one of your memorabilia, because we got a lot of stuff that we sold for our wedding, to be honest, to pay for the wedding. And I think it was left over from that, wasn't it? It was one of the Winchester Mansion, postcard. And my daughter, who was only about 2 at the time, wasn't she?
Yeah.
She pointed at the top window and she said, "Woman there." And we were like, "What are you talking about?" And she kept saying it, didn't she? She was adamant there was a woman there. And then when he showed her again another time, she said, woman there at the top. I was like, "Oh God, this is like a little bit, please don't tell me that she started to see stuff."
But you could, but it was to the point where when you started to look at that window in the top left-hand corner of this particular postcard, you could kind of see almost like a faint. It looked like a ghost photo if you really narrowed in on it. So so I'm always mortified by the thought that any of my children will grow up and become mediums. I would just have a heart attack, I think, with my skepticism. But yeah, I'm sure
she's the one that's scared of upstairs.
Yeah, she
then
is.
All children are scared of the dark and stuff. So it's not like it's.
But yeah, I think they'll. Who knows?
Who knows? We don't
Who
know.
knows? It would be great, but who knows? My eldest, he went on his first ghost hunt when he was 3. I took him to an abandoned castle in the south of France. He had his little fluorescent jacket and his torch and his head torch, and he loved it. Absolutely loved it. So yeah, I'm sure they'll get into ghosts at some point. No influence from me.
Right then, another one here for Ciarán. Could be a bit of a controversial one, I suppose, but hold on, is that one for Ciarán? Yeah. What can you share about your experiences of alleged ectoplasm coming from mediums during seances in the past?
That's a tough question because, well, it's not a tough question. There haven't been any experiences where a medium has actually produced ectoplasm within a seance room environment while I've been there. It just hasn't happened. There's been one instance where I was doing some testing of mediums at the lab that I was based in Hertfordshire, where we had mediums come in, and for about 4 or 5 hours they were giving readings for people who were based in a completely different location, so kind of remote readings, and it was a way of experimentally testing them. And this one medium, at the end of the day, after he'd done all the readings, we were packing up, and he said, "Oh, it's a shame, I couldn't stay for longer, because otherwise I could show you that I can produce ectoplasm." And I went, "Shut up. You can produce ectoplasm?" And he said, "Yeah, absolutely, I could produce ectoplasm." And he said, "But, it needs the right conditions, really." And I said, "What are you talking about?" He was in a studio, because that's where we set them up. He was in a studio where we could alter the lighting, the seating, we could do anything he wanted. And I said, "Look, I will vary the lighting. I'll make it however you want." Change the lighting. We got a comfortable seat in there, just everything, just made sure the environment was perfect. And he said, "You know what? It's never going to work because I always have a particular music that I like to listen to when I'm producing ectoplasm." And I said, as luck would have it, one of my friends who's a PhD student, she asked if I could bring in my CD collection. And I brought in my entire CD collection that day. And I had it all in these big black folders, hundreds, if not thousands of CDs. And I said, right, brought them all into the studio, dumped them in front of them. And I said, you will find the music that works for you. For people that are interested, he ended up choosing an album by a band called Cassius, which is like a dance band. So it's like, right, we're going to put that on. Because it was in a studio, we had cameras everywhere. And I was wetting myself thinking, here's a medium that's going to actually produce ectoplasm for me. Put on Cassius, had all of the lighting ready, all of the cameras. He stood there for about 20, 30 minutes, bearing in mind this guy was about 60 years old, and he danced to Cassius. He was just standing there like this, just raving to this music. And I was watching it going, what is going on? What on earth is going on? After about 30 minutes, I thought, well, nothing's happening. We're not getting anything at all. And the guy that was sitting next to me, who was in charge of the studio, I was saying, I'm really sorry I've kept you here for this, and he's like, well, I have to go back. I have to go to my kids. I was like, it's all right. I'll go in and tell him to stop. And I was so disappointed because we just had this perfect setup, walked into the room, and I was just about to say to him, look, really sorry it didn't happen, but we'll try it another time. I was just about to say it, and he said, did you see it? And I went, what are you talking about? And he said, the ectoplasm. I was producing ectoplasm between my hands. And I went, no. And he said, Ciarán, some people can see it, some people can't. I felt like punching him. I really did. 30 minutes of sitting there watching a 60-year-old rave to this dance music, thinking that he would produce ectoplasm. So, no, I've never seen ectoplasm produced. There is a jar of ectoplasm that was produced by Helen Duncan, famous medium back in the 50s, one of the last ever mediums to be convicted under the Witchcraft Act, which is a jar that's held in Trinity College Library in Cambridge University. That I've seen. So I have seen ectoplasm with my naked eye, but I've never seen it produced. Brilliant question, though. Thank you.
Yep. Question here from Anna Metallica again. What does Ciarán think of paintings that are supposedly hold curses, like the Crying Boy painting that supposedly started fires in the 80s? Do you believe that some of these paintings are cursed?
Yeah, it's the same sort of question about dolls, isn't it?
Yeah.
And as I said it, I just noticed that you've got a doll sitting there behind you.
God.
Here he is. He just sits, chills right next to the TV every single day. Good doll, that is. We've got another one where he's all scarred all up and everything. It's all at the top of the it's at the top of the stairs. It's amazing. Yeah, the kids love it. Just don't even care about it. A lot of people are afraid of the dolls, but yeah.
But I think it's the same thing. It's about belief. So perhaps I'm the wrong person to ask, because if you were to take a spiritualist type viewpoint or paranormal viewpoint and say that if it's possible for objects to be cursed, so dolls, for example, or paintings, which Anna's asking about, then absolutely I think it's possible, especially because if dolls can be cursed, if objects can be cursed, if buildings could be cursed, then why couldn't a painting be cursed? So absolutely, I think there's a possibility of it based on that logic. As a parapsychologist, I would say no, there's nothing to curses at all. So I'm kind of giving those two possible answers, because I think it's fair enough. It's down to belief, isn't it, really, more than anything else?
It really is. I think I've got one last question before we go into the rapid fire questions.
Oh, the quick fire round.
The quick fire ones, which I love them ones. Remember, guys, if you want to ask any questions, I think we're going to be live for about another 20 minutes. So make sure you throw them, and we can ask both Anna and Ciarán whatever you want to know. But here we go. This is one. You've been studying stigmata as part of your religious parapsychology research for 30 plus years now. Can you briefly share what you've learned about stigmata? Are there any cases that you found particularly interesting?
Yeah, the most interesting is St. Francis of Assisi, but also the Padre Pio case as well. So for St. Francis of Assisi is going back hundreds of years. If anything, one of the first stigmatas or stigmatics that we know of. The issue there, of course, is you're going back hundreds of years. You're basing it on accounts. Padre Pio is slightly different because we've got photographs of Padre Pio going back to 70s and held up to be not deity, but held up to be this amazing saint, effectively, who produced this stigmatic injuries. The issue I've got with it is you're dealing with potentially about 100 genuine cases historically of stigmatics, so not a lot. And the majority of those have stigmatic injuries or stigmatic wounds that tie into the crucifix icon that we know of. And yet, if they were genuinely the wounds of Christ, they would not be appearing on the hands where they always appear. That's the kind of the main issue that I've got with it, is that typically they'd be happening here. So stigmatics have them here, whereas on a crucifix, the nail would actually be here. And you don't get stigmatics having their wounds here. They get it here because all the iconography about it, the crucifixes, the statues, have the nail there, whereas that never would have worked on a genuine crucifix. And therefore, that immediately points to, well, what else might be going on here then, if it's not some sort of paranormal thing? And I think the normal explanation is equally fantastical. And that is that potentially it's the power of the mind. You know, if somebody has that dogmatic, intense belief in Jesus Christ, that they feel like they're getting the injuries that he suffered, and that then the power of the mind is causing those injuries, I think that's amazing. You know, I think that's really amazing. And if anything, that is a medical miracle that it's happening, that they're actually getting those injuries, especially where some of the most extreme stigmatics, and there's only a very small number, will suffer all of the wounds. So all 5 wounds. So feet, hands, they might get some injuries here, but they'll get a piercing on the side, which can actually be lethal. You know, if it's not dealt with very quickly, the amount of blood loss can result in somebody dying. So you can have quite extreme examples, but no, from my perspective, I still think St. Francis of Assisi and Padre Pio are the most interesting cases.
There you go. Question from Hippie, which apparently she's asked quite a few questions. I've just seen this one. What are your opinions on the Warrens?
People might not know this, but I'm a qualified demonologist. And the reason why is because about 15 years ago, I realized that there started to be a lot of individuals in North America calling themselves demonologists. And I looked into the background of some of these individuals and noticed that they all had a similar demonology qualification, which was from, a university where you could call them up and say, I'd like to take your demonology course. And it was basically, you could almost buy yourself a qualification. So I signed up to this particular university for a demonology qualification. They sent me the book by Ed and Lorraine Warren that was called The Demonologist, written by James Brittle, I think it was, but it was specifically kind of written by him and the Warrens. And I was asked to write an essay about that particular book. I did that, and then I became a qualified demonologist just from reading their book. So it's a bollocks qualification, but it shows that I've got an interest and a knowledge of the Warrens. I find their history fantastic, really, really fantastic. But I think a lot of their investigations suffered from a desire to be famous and desire for publicity. You know, so they're involved in a number of different cases, which of course are covered now in the Conjuring films. You know, we've got their involvement in various things like Amityville. They were at Enfield Poltergeist for one day. There's the Annabelle doll as well, which they were involved in. All of those cases. And I think there was just a lot of publicity, a lot of exaggeration in their cases to make it sound more than it actually was. So I'm very skeptical of the two of them. Although I've got a lot of respect for John Zaffis, who is a nephew of theirs, who people will know from the show Paranormal Collector.
There you go. Question here from Gems. Would you ever work with Most Haunted again?
Yes, I wouldn't say no. I mean, they've gone off and done their own thing. So Yvette and Carl are still doing Most Haunted. They did Most Haunted after 2010. So when we kind of finished as the original team, they went off and did their own Most Haunted. They still work with Fred Batt and Stuart and various others, but they've got a new crew. They did Really TV for a while, and then they started doing it online. And they're doing their thing. It's not the way I would do it, you know. And Most Haunted, I'm very privileged and grateful for the experience I had, and it's afforded me all of these opportunities that I've never had before. So I'm very, very grateful. Met some amazing people. If we were to meet again, and do Most Haunted. It would either be a one-off, get everybody together, you know,
Like a reunion
say hi,
show.
reunion show. If it were to be a series, I don't think it would work, because it would be Most Haunted doing Most Haunted, and that's not the way I investigate now, you know. So,
Yep.
you know, unless they took the opportunity and moved things forward and brought it up to date, I don't think I would be interested, other than a reunion type show.
Yeah, I mean, I would love a reunion. I think that would be good nostalgia hit for a lot of, the fans who used to watch it back in the day. I'm going to take one more question before we get into the rapid fire questions. So, let me see if I can see anything. You know, if you can see anything in the chat that interests you, you can answer it.
Somebody asked a while ago, what celebrities would you go on a ghost hunt with? That's quite cool.
What celebrities would I go on a
Would you
ghost hunt
like
with?
to? Yeah.
Oh, that's a good question.
Very good question.
Like living celebrities.
I think. I think that was right.
What celebrities would I go on a ghost hunt with? Wow, that's a good. Yeah, I would probably want to go on a ghost hunt with Marilyn Manson. And who else? Stacey Solomon.
Oh, she's amazing.
Yeah, I've been on a ghost hunt with Stacey Solomon, only very briefly. We did The Cage. You know The Cage? Yeah, we did that. But yeah, she's brilliant. It was such a good laugh. And she's very open to kind of knowing more about, a lot about the science, and really knows her physics as well. Really knows her physics. Amazing, amazing brain when it comes to physics. So yeah, Stacey Solomon and Marilyn Manson. Wow, that would be a ghost hunting team, wouldn't it?
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
And you got one more choice if it's 3.
Oh, is it 3? Oh, and the other one would be... Oh, that's a good question. The other one would be Boris Johnson.
Okay, that's, yeah.
Scare him to death.
How you, Anna? What 3 celebs would you take? Dead or alive?
I said to you, I was quite envious of you, Paul O'Grady. I'd quite like to take on a ghost
Oh,
hunt.
yes, yeah, he's hilarious.
Yeah.
I heard an interesting story about Paul O'Grady, actually. And it kind of put me off him in a way. You know the 30 East Drive live Most Haunted that he done with them?
Yes.
And there was fans queuing outside all day to, who wanted to meet like Paul O'Grady and like autographs and take pictures or whatever like that. Everyone else in Most Haunted, including Royal and everything, they all went past and they all said, hello to, all to the fans and spent time with the fans and everything. But when Paul O'Grady finally turned up, these people were waiting outside the house like 8 in the morning. It was all down the street, because it was a live Halloween production. And all the fans were shouting for Paul O'Grady's name and like all waving. And one of the people said to Paul O'Grady, he was like, oh, you're going to wave to some of your fans. And he said, it's not in my paycheck to wave to them. And he walked past all the fans and all the kids and everyone there and just walked straight into the house to do his job and then pissed straight back off. Carol told me that from who lives next door.
Dear.
And she said that just shocked her. So you heard it here, guys, first. Shocking, that is. But
that is shocking. And yet we love him because of Battersea Dogs Home.
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, sorry about that, Anna.
in answer to Dead Cold Paranormal, in answer to your question, which you've asked 3 or 4 times, the answer is yes. Episode 9. Yes, I'm in episode 9.
Yeah, if you watch the stream from the very start, we talk about the Battersea Poltergeist. Where were you, man? No, you was looking forward to that much. You missed the start. So expect some firm words after this stream is finished, mate. Maybe even the ban. Might even ban you. But anyway, I think that could be it. We've had a lot of questions. So now,
brilliant.
In the last 10 minutes, we're going to do some quick fire ones. Again, thank you everyone who's stuck around and supported us. It's been very appreciated. And here we go, some rapid fire questions. What we're going to do? Okay then. So remember, this is for both of you. Okay.
Okay.
So, which swear word is likely to come out of your mouth when you're scared?
Jesus.
Oh God. Oh,
Rapid fire.
I don't know.
Rapid fire.
I don't know. What do I say when I'm really scared?
Fuck.
Fuck. There
Yeah,
you go.
that's the classic one. I mean, that's what I say a lot as well. Like
Fuckity.
it's just straight in with the F word. You know, sometimes you can't even help what comes out. But yeah, there we go. The F word.
Rapid fire. Am I?
Get into the mode. Get into the.
Sorry,
Get
okay,
into it.
okay,
Go.
go,
Rapid
go,
fire.
go.
What's your top 3 favorite books?
Oh, for me,
Jesus,
Skeleton
Louis.
Crew by Stephen King, The Books of Blood by Clive Barker, and then Ghost Stories by M.R. James.
Anna?
Okay, currently
go on.
reading Good Life's Good Vibes by Vex King. They're very good. Start with Why I'm reading as well, and Think Like a Monk.
There you go. There's the 3 I'm not going to name our 3 favorite. I don't think I've got 3 favorite. Very rarely I'll read a book. What books have I read? The 30 East Drive one that come out pretty recently. I've got a Sepultura book. I've got a book coming very soon called Itchy and Tasty, which talks about the development of the Resident Evil series. But yeah, I've got nothing. You know, I like a lot of like films that were taken from books. You know, I love The Shining. I think The Doctor Sleep was great. All I can think of. Yeah. So yeah, but that was a question for you. But anyway, number 3. What is your greatest achievement in life so far?
Oh, 3 my
Children.
children.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I think that's a lot of like parents' favorite, you know, well, greatest achievement. Unless you get a little arsehole, then it's a regret. But yeah, a lot of the time it is an achievement without a doubt.
Yeah.
Which superpower do you wish you had, and would you use it to your advantage?
Good question.
Read people's minds. Yes.
Oh, you'd have that. I'd
Yeah.
have invisibility.
Ooh.
And yes, I would. So you would read people's minds.
Yeah.
You would want to do that.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
probably not
that
do.
would be dangerous, though, wouldn't you, reading
It would
people's
be
minds?
dangerous. Yeah. I don't think telepathy should exist, because I think it would be quite scary if you could just read everybody's mind all the time. But yeah, mine would be invisibility. And I would. Like Hollow Man, that
Hollow
film.
Man, yeah.
Hollow Man. Yeah.
I think mine would probably be the same as well, invisibility.
Very
'Cause
useful.
But yeah, reading people's minds. I mean, at certain times in life, you wish you could just read people's minds. But yeah, just imagine walking down the street and having all those people like judging you in your mind, as
Yeah.
you're just walking down. You'd probably make you go crazy, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Especially if it's not even nice thoughts, like, oh, look at that tramp. Oh, look at it. You know, you wouldn't want to go out again. You wouldn't
No.
even leave the house. So,
No, horrific.
Just reading. Do you have any hidden talents? If so, give us a live demonstration.
That's tough, isn't it? Because my hidden talent is piano. I've been playing the piano since I was 4 years old.
You've got a piano
So-
in the room.
No, it's in my 3-year-old's room. So
Anna?
no.
What's your hidden
That's,
talent?
that's me playing the piano. Look.
My hidden talent. You do a bewitched wiggle.
Oh yes, the nose. You got to zoom in. Go into the camera.
Because I can't perform very well. Like,
A bewitched nose
Oh.
wiggle. Go get it. Get it. Can you see that? No, you can't see it so well.
it's going so fast. No, there you go. Flare my nostrils and do a wiggle. They can't.
You
It's
can't
too
see
fast.
it. It's too fast. It's moving. Her nose is moving. It
Okay.
moves at the speed of light. It's so fast. That's a hidden talent.
Right then.
Yeah.
You
I can't do Irish dancing, as somebody just said.
I'm not a very good dancer either myself. What was the question? We've done the super. Which hidden talents? I might as well answer it as well. What's my hidden talent? Hidden talent. Play the drums like nearly every day, but I don't know if I'm not an expert at it. You know, I just play for fun. So yeah. We've got. You can only eat one meal for the rest of your life. What is it?
Ooh.
Indian food.
Oh wow.
I could eat it every day, all day.
Wow.
What's
Probably
your
pizza.
what's your favourite dish of an Indian?
I love chicken makhni, but when it's been a bit veggie recently, it'd
Chicken
have to be.
makhni or butter chicken, isn't it?
Yeah, it'd have to be a dal or something maybe. I quite like dal.
I don't know if it would be pizza or a cooked breakfast.
Oh yeah, it's
I don't know.
it's a hard one. I mean, I'm a massive pizza fan. I love pizza.
Oh, I do like
Um,
pizza.
I mean, if anyone goes for a Domino's, I mean, the thing is, like, sometimes, especially when you order a pizza, sometimes it can be very hit and miss. So I always just go the safe route, and I just go for cheese pizza, but I get double sauce and double cheese, and it's amazing. So if anyone goes for Domino's, make sure you get
I haven't
double
done it
cheese.
before.
No.
Double P. Yeah, so when you
Double.
select it, you can like customize it, and you can just click extra sauce and extra cheese, and it comes and it's just like, oh my god, it's better than any topping because it's just juicy. Because sometimes they can be really dry and just nasty, and you're like, oh, there's just nothing to it. But that you can't go wrong with. So that's my suggestion. But I love bolognese. I love Italian food like lasagna,
yes.
Italian. Yeah.
pasta,
Yes.
carbonara. Well, people wanted to see this Chucky doll. Bring it in then. We done an unboxing of this back in the day. But yeah, people wanted to see the other Chucky doll, and here it is.
Oh.
Yeah, that's not creepy at all, is it?
So if we can get can you see him? Look, it's amazing. I love this one, and
That's brilliant.
that is literally just chilling. Look at the detail. You know what I mean? All on the hands.
as well.
Yeah, and we have him just chilling at the top of the stairs, so whenever opposite Vigo the Carpathian. So it's a right little horror house we got, but yeah, there is
Brilliant.
the seed of Chucky doll.
Wow.
Absolutely amazing. I love that. And when we do conventions, because we are doing something pretty soon, a Ghost Fest. We're going to be working with Haunted Happenings, and it's going to be like a meet and greet. We're going to be selling exclusive merch. And I'm going to take some of my horror memorabilia. I'm going to take my 2 Chucky dolls. I've got a Freddy replica glove. I'm going to take my doll that I got from Canic Chase as well. So, yeah, come and join us. And you can have a picture, selfie with some of these
Chucky. Brilliant.
luscious items. But, yeah, there you go. There's the Chucky doll. Put him back in his place. Anyway. Okay, we got a few more rapid fire questions. Here we go. Who's your celebrity crush?
Oh.
It could be from any time. It doesn't have to be.
Helena Bonham Carter for him.
It doesn't have to be
Let's
present.
be clear about it. Helena Bonham Carter in Fight Club.
When she's dirty.
She needs a good shower.
There you go.
Yeah, Helena Bonham Carter in Fight Club, not in anything else. There you go.
I know.
I used to have a
yours?
serious crush about when I was younger, all through my teens, on Sting.
Yes, that's right.
Serious crush on Sting.
What,
You asked
the
me-
wrestler or the singer?
No, singer.
Yeah, the wrestler was real good looking. He kind of took on the Brandon Lee look, Yeah, the style was amazing. I love that look back then.
Is that your celebrity crush? then?
No, I'll get onto mine. Was you going to say someone else, Anna?
Yeah, who's the guy? Oh god, I can't remember his name because I'm not even interested now. But who's the guy that?
The actor.
Yeah,
that was in,
you used to get really funny about.
Gerard.
Gerard Butler.
There you go.
But I don't find him attractive now, so
He hasn't aged well.
he hasn't aged well.
I think I don't really have much of a celebrity crush, but when I was younger, I'd say, teens, like 14, 15, 16, it'd probably be Christina Ricci. Christina Ricci,
Oh, yes.
like from Casper,
Yes.
and the Addams Family and all that,
Yeah.
Obviously when she was a bit older, not when she was the child, but yeah, I had a big celebrity crush on her. That much I even went out with a girl who looked just like her. But yeah, that was a long time ago. What's your guilty pleasure?
Guilty pleasure. What would be my guilty pleasure? My guilty pleasure. Well, apart from horror films, but that's not really a guilty pleasure, though, is it? Guilty pleasure.
I'll have to come back to this one. No, Veronique, before we forget, Veronique's been asking a question a few times and it's been missed.
Can you see it?
Let me go back.
Guilty pleasure. I don't know.
I think my guilty pleasure.
Oh, Haribo. But that's not really a guilty pleasure, is it?
Nah, I don't. Well, it could be.
Yeah, I've got it. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, we'll do this question, then we'll get onto that one.
Yeah.
I think my guilty pleasure, because I think I love rewatching, like actually like old episodes of Most Haunted. That's kind of like a guilty pleasure because there's a lot of people like, oh, you shouldn't watch it. Oh, it's this, and blah blah blah. I was like, man, I love it, and I always will. And it's kind of always a guilty pleasure. Like sometimes I'm in bed and I'm just like, you know what, I'm in the mood for some old classic Mouse Haunted. Fire up the Amazon app and I can just, when we watch it on the telly with a smile and I enjoy it, and it just kind of takes me back to when I was a child. So
Brilliant.
it's kind of like a guilty pleasure.
Ether, just thought of yours.
Not a guilty pleasure, though. It's not a pleasure.
Yeah, you can say it.
No, it's just because I love dogs, so I often go through dogs sanctuary websites, dreaming of my dog, getting a dog, because we can't have one at the moment because we're in a rented place. But yeah, there you go. It's my guilty pleasure. I trawl through all the websites.
And you do. You're
dreaming
just
of the
addicted.
dogs that we can get.
Absolutely.
We can't have.
Yeah. So Kieran's was Haribo, Anna's was dogs, and mine was Mouse Haunted. So best of all worlds. We've covered all bases on that
Put
one.
them all together.
Exactly. Eat Haribo with the dog, watching Mouse Haunted. Question. So this was it. What do you know about shadow people with white glowing eyes? That was the question, was it? I believe. Yeah. Kieran, you're the main man for this one.
Yeah. So just a little bit of history as well. When we talk about shadow people, you find them in lots of different locations now, but you can go back to I'm trying to think of the name of the location now. Not Rolling Hills. It'll come to me. But anyway, there's a particular location, kind of down near Tennessee, kind of that direction, where there was a location where people started to report a lot of shadow people in that particular location. And they gave it the term shadow people. And within that location, you do get examples of people reporting shadow people with kind of white glowing eyes, and also white eyes that are not glowing, but just kind of translucent, just all. So yeah, there are examples of that. And I find that more impressive than shadow people alone. Because shadow people are people that look like, they're the figures of shadows. They're walking around. You're seeing them as shadows. The issue with that, of course, is especially if you're in a dark place, you could easily misattribute a genuine shadow of yourself or anybody else that's in the location and think that it's a shadow person. If you're seeing that shadow person and they've got white eyes or white glowing eyes, surely that's more evidential. So I think it's a brilliant question. You just don't hear about them as much as you do regular shadow people. So yeah, would love to see more photos of it, to be honest.
Yep, there you go. And we've got 3 more questions in the rapid fire, and then we're going to leave it. Is there anything that you fear? Any phobias or anything like that?
I don't really have any phobias. No, people know from Most Haunted that I'm not a big fan of mannequins. So I'm not a big fan of mannequins. And I sat next to mannequins in the basement of Warwick Castle and freaked out. And then in Lincoln Jail, Carl and Yvette locked me into a small cupboard with mannequins. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of mannequins, but I wouldn't say it's a phobia at all. I don't really have any phobias.
Yeah.
What about yourself?
Killer whales.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
What?
I have
Orcophobia.
I have a really, really bad phobia of killer whales. Like, it's ever since I was 8, it's never gone away. Kieran tried to do the whole, was it flooding and desensitization. He tried everything, tried to cure me of my phobia of killer whales, but it's never gone. Because I went to see one at Windsor Safari Park when I was 8, and it was my birthday. My parents took me to a front row, gave me a front row. I think it was front row seat. It felt like it was front row. And I could just, when I saw it, I could just see it bobbing up and down behind these bars. And then I just said, I want to go. And they said, no, we've come all this way. Let's just sit and watch it. And just traumatized me for life. But it's like spread to things like, because I used to do like obviously charity events, and we did things like zip lines from ships and big like massive. And if I was walking through like a dockyard or something, I turned the corner, there's a black and white boat, totally freak out. I remember having to be led onto one of these HMS massive ships by this guy with a massive gun with my eyes shut because I couldn't bear the size of the ship because of this whole killer whale phobia. So yeah, I need to be fixed. If anybody knows fixing phobias.
But it is a phobia.
Seriously bad.
You can be fearful of something, and that means, yes, you could be scared of it and fearful of it. But a phobia from psychology we know where the reaction is extreme, and with Anna it is, you know, heart going, feeling sick, just complete interference with kind of your day-to-day functioning when you're confronted with this sort of stuff. And people at my home might go, well, you know, it's probably quite useful to have a phobia of killer whales, you know, you should avoid them. But yeah, it has extended, and it is to the extent where you've got to tell the story about the cinema. Free Willy?
Free Willy. And Happy Feet. No, it's Happy Feet.
Oh no, it's Happy Feet. It wasn't Free Willy.
Happy Feet. Was it Happy Feet?
Happy Feet with the penguins dancing.
And then there's a scene where two killer whales come up. And I don't know, I can't remember exactly. I think I swore, didn't I? In
swore and screamed, and it was a cinema full of children. When Happy Feet first came out in the cinema, and here was Anna screaming, and you basically had a cinema full of children crying and traumatized because this grown woman had screamed and almost knocked kids over trying to exit the cinema.
That's like what happened when I did organise a SCAD dive. So it's like a suspended catch air device, it's a bit like a bungee, but you you drop from a high height into this net. And we did a bungee jump as well, Oxford Balloon Fiesta, when I was organising charity events. And unknown to me, I was obviously checking people into the bungee jump and stuff. And I didn't know that somebody had blown up a massive bustly air balloon behind me. I heard all this puffing because obviously there were loads of hot air balloons, but I didn't realise there was a massive cow, black and white cow, had been blown up behind me. And it was so bad that I couldn't actually physically. I had to get somebody to help me to check these participants in because I couldn't bear the black and whiteness near me. So yeah,
there you go.
To be honest, I can kind of relate a bit to that. Well, not me personally, but I had like one of my best friends was absolutely terrified of snakes to the point where he couldn't even see one. If one come on the TV, he would scream and like hide his face and everything. Or if there was one in a book, or even just the sound of one, he was petrified of snakes. And I remember one day, I was just hanging out with him, and he was like, "Oh, you never guess what happened last night, Steve." He was like, he nearly died. He was in the house all on his own, and his PC used to be in the hallway, and he was watching some porn like you do, and out of nowhere, he was there and he was enjoying himself, having a good time. And then a snake come out of the lady, and he said he screamed like you wouldn't believe. He ran. And was just in absolute fear. He kind of put him off porn as well for quite a bit.
I was going to say that what sort of porn would have a snake coming out of a lady?
The thing, he was just watching what he thought was regular, and then all of a sudden, he said all of a sudden the head just come out, and he just come straight out. And I was like, man, these people are nuts.
I think I would develop a phobia of snakes on the basis of that too.
So yeah. Wow. But yeah, that's crazy. I mean, of all the things to come out, it could have been anything. A spider, a rabbit, but no, a snake. My God.
Some said moths. I agree with moths.
Moths, yes.
Well, yeah, I think my phobia or fear, I would say, is heights. I'm not a big fan of heights. I feel like, because when I'm there, it feels like something's behind me, pushing me over. It's dreadful. Anyway, what's your favourite paranormal series on TV right now?
That's a good question. On TV,
yeah,
I would say probably it's a toss-up between Destination Fear and Kindred Spirits. Two very different, both ghost hunting shows, but very, very different approaches. So I like Destination Fear. I like Dakota Layden anyway, and kind of his approach, and he has the family tagging along as well. That's a typical ghost hunting show. Kindred Spirits is slightly different with Amy and Adam, in that they approach it kind of a little bit more in a counselling way. So yeah, I'd have to say those two, probably a toss-up between Kindred Spirits and Destination Fear.
Anna?
I'd have to say Unexplained Caught on Camera, Saturday nights, 9 p.m, really fan.
And there's your plug. There you go. There's the plug. Yeah, and that'll be mine as well, yeah. Exactly what Anna said. Actually, there's one question here. Hold on, was there a question? Will there be a round 3 live with the O'Keeffes again soon? These lives are awesome.
At some point, yes. Yep. Why not?
Why not? If you guys love them and want it, then it's not. Yeah, sure, why not? Yeah, we can do it. And final question of the night, and then we're going to leave you all, is What's one piece of advice that you live by?
Mine is never go to bed on an argument,
Oh, that's a good one.
which my grandmother said, and that's something I've always tried to stick to.
That's a good piece of advice.
That is very good.
Can you top that, Ciarán?
No. Well, I guess the advice to live by would probably be, I don't know. Don't have a Guinness before you go to bed.
Oh, and I've just had a Guinness.
Take a Rennie upstairs, Leah.
Take a Rennie upstairs. There you go.
Renee.
Yes. But no, that's a brilliant one. Yeah, don't go to bed on an argument, I think is a lovely one.
Yeah, that is really good. I mean, a piece of advice, I don't know if it's advice, it's more of a song, you know, from one of my favourite bands called Sepultura. They're doing a song called Fighting On. And he just kind of keeps saying, you know, no matter how much crap keeps going your way or whatever, you know, just keep going, keep fighting on. And that's kind of like just more of like a mantra or something that I just kind of keep going by. So not really advice, but more of like motivation, as you could say it.
That's a good one. Keep going no matter how bad it gets.
And never let stuff get you down. We'll try not to, yeah, you know. So, and there we go, guys. The end of round 2 with the O'Keeffes. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed talking to them, asking the questions. Thank you, everyone, for all the questions. Is there anything that you want to plug? Anything you want to say? Now's the time.
40 times. There you go. So we talked about Battersea Poltergeist. 40 times. I've just done an article for them. So look out for that. That's just come out. Apart from that, yeah, please do watch Battersea Poltergeist next. Listen to it next week, starting Monday on Radio 4 at 8:30 p.m. You can listen live Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and the following week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, ending with a new episode 9 on Friday, the 9th of April in the evening. So please do check that out. Yeah. And that's it. And later on in the year, Halloween, I've got a book coming out. It's been quite a few years since I've written a book, but there's a ghost book coming out approaching Halloween. So maybe we'll come back on and talk about that later on in the year.
Yeah, that'd be amazing to do. Have you got anything to plug, Anna?
No, I don't think. No. I mean, mine doesn't really fit into the paranormal world, so no.
So there you go. We tried. What have I got to plug? I've got to plug up some merch. You know, we've got merch. Everyone go check out the merch store.
My t-shirt.
Yeah, there we go. I think I've got the same one on, do I? Yeah. Look at this. We both repping you know, you can't even buy this off the merch store. So anyone that likes this design, don't even bother looking. That was exclusive. But yeah, so we got merch. We got a new video coming out in the next few days whenever I can be bothered to sit down and edit. So that's coming. And I think that could be it. You know, it's very quiet, you know, just chilling. Lockdown should be kind of lifting very soon. Can't wait to get back out full time, joining Haunted Happenings and actually going to some amazing locations, because, you know, the abandoned locations, you know, it's eerie, it's creepy, but most of the time, to be honest, I think it's more scary of who the hell's going to turn up. You know, a lot of these places are drug dens. But as for hauntedness, you know, there's no recorded history, but it's still fun. But I can't wait to get back onto the big locations. Anyway, so yeah, and come and join us. By the way, come and talk to us when we are at these locations. It's always fun to hear your stories, and you guys know more than us. You're telling us experiences that we forgot, and that's always good to kind of think, oh man, yeah, that did really happen. So yeah, and I think that's it. Thank you again, Ciarán and Anna. That was great.
Thank you.
And yeah, we will see you whenever we see her, you know, random as always. So yeah, take it easy, guys, and we'll see you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we'll leave it on that.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.